the junkie lifestyle, because even when I came to Mexico, the years of 2019 and 2020, I had to move 9 fucking times. I moved within a year's period of time. 9 times.
9 times.
9 times.
But how soon we forget. How soon we forget what the chaos felt like. Say hi. Welcome to the shit show. As it's thundering like crazy. You probably can't hear it, but it's getting a little too dark. I'm losing all my light. Here she comes. So when I was walking India the other day, we were passing like one of the construction areas, and there's this guy who I see every day, and he says hi, and we say hi, and he sees me walking India, and it's blah blah blah. And he literally sleeps in a truck. In a truck. And I saw him laying down in the front seat on his cell phone, probably watching something on his cell phone. And I thought, wow. And I remembered when I was, in fact, living in my car, and how much I wished and prayed to have my own roof, and to have my own bathroom, and to have my own bed, and a place to sleep, and a place to go back to. And I fucking have that today. So thank you, universe, for reminding me and humbling me and reminding me about gratitude. The universe be working in sneaky ways. Which then led me to think about the absolute chaos that used to be my life. Because a year ago is when I first moved into this apartment. Literally, I saw a memory on one of my platforms that popped up, and I was literally moving. I was going through some shit a year ago where my old landlord wanted me to leave like 2 days early, and I didn't have a place to sleep for 2 days. And then a friend of mine let me stay in one of her rooms in like this inn that she has, and I stayed there for 2. So I essentially had to move like 3 times, because I had to move my stuff into the temporary 2-night place, and then I came here, and I had to do it, and I did it all by myself. I had help for the first day of like moving some of the things, but for the most part I had to do it myself. And it sucked, but I can't believe it's been a year, which then led me to think about the chaos of my junkie life. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is the chaos and what that actually felt like. The amount of times that I used to have to move, from getting kicked out of places or abandoning leases, or just like not being able to pay and like leaving, or being evicted. And it was just a small piece of the chaos that was my life 24 fucking 7. Every single year for 17 years, I think I moved. It was rare for me to stay in a place for more than a year if I didn't get kicked out, if I wasn't evicted, if I didn't just leave because I couldn't pay and abandon the lease. And again, I never cleaned. I never washed myself. I never showered. I lived in filth. So like the thought of cleaning a place, the thought of moving was always a lot easier than cleaning. So I would, in a way, be running from my life and running from the chaos by just moving and having a brand new environment. It's starting to rain. Because in Boston, too, it's kind of like normal to move a lot. I mean, every September 1st is super chaotic on the streets, because there's so many colleges and universities in the area that literally every corner is riddled with U-Haul trucks and students moving. So it's really not that uncommon to move a lot. Except around September 1st, all the leases start September 1st, the students come in, all the things. But the apartment that I first became a junkie in, the rent at that apartment was $1,100 a month. And I knew that I couldn't continue to pay that. My dad essentially was helping me out, but when I became a junkie, I went through all of my money within such a short period of time. And my solution to that was just to move to a cheaper place, a little bit further away from the city. I went from Jamaica Plain to Dorchester, and the rent at the new place was $1,000 a month, which was a lot. And I didn't know how I was going to pull that one off, because my dad wasn't like paying for much of anything at that point. And within a month, I realized that I couldn't keep paying the rent. So my solution to that was just to start stealing from my brother. And that's how I paid the rent for the second month. Just said, fuck it. I have to move again because I can't pay this $1,000 a month. So let me move a little bit further outside of the city into Quincy. So that I was only there at that apartment for 2 months and realized I couldn't pay. Then I found a little bit cheaper apartment. I think it was for 900 in Quincy. I was only at that place, I think, for a few months before I soon realized once again that I just couldn't pay the rent. I wasn't working. I think I was getting unemployment at that time, but that's when I started really being a criminal and breaking the law and going out boosting and selling stolen goods. So really within the first couple of years I was homeless. And after that apartment in Quincy, I just kind of gave up looking and moved all of my shit into my friend's house, into his garage, thinking that it was going to be fine there. I don't know why even thought that it would be okay there, but I had a cat and I stayed at my friend's house for like a week or two before I got arrested again and ended up living in my car for a while. And then it was during that time when I was living in my car and I didn't have an address. And my dad kept asking me where I was staying and where I was living because, again, my parents were very involved. I was very close to my parents, and my parents would always help me move. And it would be like this whole day event, and we'd get food, we'd get takeout, we'd move my stuff. My mom would be like cleaning up things. My dad would be moving the furniture with me. It was like a thing. And so my parents would always know like my address or like where I was living. And when I started being really vague about where I was staying, I started lying and saying I was staying with a friend of mine. He would ask me what the address was. Started to become more and more obvious that I was essentially homeless. And it was then that my dad was like, okay, let me help you out. And he put me up in a motel. And it was the Motel 6 in Weymouth. And I remember it was all the way in the back. And I would never let the cleaning lady into the room because I didn't want anybody coming around, snooping around, seeing my paraphernalia because it was a mess. I was constantly living in filth. Had shit everywhere, paraphernalia everywhere. I didn't want anybody finding or like rummaging through my shit. After about a month, I think it was, of staying in the motel, they kicked me out. I got kicked out of a Motel 6. I couldn't really find another place to go. I found another cheap motel place to go, was there for a couple nights, and then just kind of succumbed to being homeless. Stayed with a friend in Weymouth for a little while, got arrested a few times, like really didn't have a place to go. When I was living and sleeping in my car, Boston is very difficult to find public property. In Boston, it is like literally all private property. Everything is a school zone. Everything is some sort of property owned by something, someone, some business. It is very difficult to find a place to park and sleep in a car. So I would rotate a lot between sleeping in Southie, like along the boardwalk, like the L Street Beach, or down by Castle Island, which was a pain in the ass because all of these people would be up at like sunrise, and a lot of times people would either start knocking on my window or cops would come knocking on my window, and the sun would rise right there, and I'd try to put something over it was really really difficult. And then sometimes I would sleep in the hospital parking lot in Milton, at Milton Hospital, because I figured people were like visiting loved ones in hospitals, right? Like people come and go all night long in a hospital, and people park there all night long in hospitals. So I thought I was blend in, but the security started to get hip to the fact that I was there sleeping in my car, and they would come knocking on my window. So it was really difficult to just live in my car. So then my dad started getting even more suspicious because, again, I wasn't in the motel anymore and I was just kind of MIA all the time. And so I found a place to sublet. There was this couple that was living in Lower Mills in Dorchester, and they were like going on vacation or leaving for a few months and leaving all of their stuff there. So I was essentially going to sublet their place for really cheap. And I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. So my dad agreed to pay for that. And it was at this time when my dad just started paying for the roof over my head. It wasn't like all the time from the beginning. It was really his way of making sure that I was safe and had a place to fucking sleep. So I moved into another place after just being in the sublet for a few months. And ironically, I was living in like a basement apartment of a halfway house. And like I was having my dope dude come over, like my friends would come over and get high. And the landlord was fucking crazy. Like would barge into my apartment, like, and threaten me threatened me. I remember my dad drove up to Boston specifically to talk to this landlord because the fucking landlord almost put his fucking hands on. Like, he was psychotic. He was fucking psychotic. And then refused to give me my deposit back after just a couple months of living in that place, took me to court. And my dad had all the receipts. He saved literally everything. And the landlord showed up to court and like ended up apologizing. And my dad, the one thing about my dad was he was not a vengeful person. Like, my dad was entitled to 3 times the amount of the deposit because the landlord had lied. And my dad said, don't worry about it. Like, my dad was not a vengeful person, which I so appreciated about him, but whatever. And then from that place, I moved in with a friend of mine. He had an extra bedroom available. So I moved there, stayed there for actually, I think it was over a year. And then from that place, moved into another. Like, literally, I moved a million fucking times. A million times. And the last apartment that I had, I moved into, I think it was 2016. And I was actually at that place for the last 2 years before I stopped using dope. And God, that place was a mess. If I remember, I'm going to insert pictures because it was absolute filth because I never cleaned. I didn't own any cleaning supplies and the shit just piled up. You couldn't see my floor. Between the clothes, the paraphernalia, the dirty needles, the bags and bags of dirty needles. My bathroom was disgusting. I had like products and empty bottles. My bathtub, which essentially just turned into a garbage can, was filled with just bags of empty needles and empty shampoo and empty all the things. Just like, it was ridiculous. Bags of garbage, like everywhere. I slept on an air mattress, which actually is probably not the best idea for a junkie who smokes cigarettes because I would find myself waking up literally on the floor because the air mattress would just like deflate because I would constantly be dropping fucking burning cigarettes on the air mattress and I would wake up with holes in the air mattress and be on the floor. It wasn't just because I was using, it was just the lifestyle, the junkie lifestyle. Because even when I came to Mexico, the years of 2019 and 2020, I had to move 9 fucking times. I moved within a year's period of time. 9 times. It was just the absolute chaos that was my life. I was getting kicked out. I was out all the time. I was fighting with people. I was loud. I was disrespectful. I was filthy and dirty. I was not a good tenant. So now to be in a place that I actually take care of and I'm here for a significant amount of time and I get along with the neighbors and they're all great people and I don't have to worry about hiding anything is a good feeling. And also, I cannot talk about the chaos of my junkie life without bringing up the constant fucking anxiety. In the beginning of my addiction, I had bills that I paid: my cell phone bill, my cable bill, my light bill, my heat bill, my rent. I had bills that I was responsible for that I followed through with. But it didn't take long for those to fall by the wayside. And the constant fucking anxiety. And with all the times that I was moving, I mean, when you move into a new place, you have to disconnect like your cable and you have to reconnect it at the new place. Any old balances that you have to pay. So I was constantly like either living in some sort of debt, not paying bills, letting it rack up, trying to figure out how to get around it. And I remember specifically one night early in my addiction, I was still in the first apartment that I became a junkie in. And I had started doing credit card scams, or like I had a credit card that my dad had given me and I like ran it up and was doing scams with it. And I would literally lay awake at night and be terrified that the cops were going to come knocking on my door. And that anxiety really never left for 17 years throughout my entire addiction, constantly worrying that the cops were going to come knocking down my door because I constantly had warrants and I was constantly trying to evade the cops and I was constantly trying to not be found out and I was constantly breaking the law. When I started getting arrested, though, it the anxiety, the constant anxiety of driving and passing a cop on the street was just overwhelming. with a pit in my stomach, the way my heart would race. The cops knew me. They knew me by face. They knew my car. All they had to do was run my plate. And so seeing cops and passing cops and detectives was literally so, it was like a heart attack. It was like having a heart attack every time I had to leave my house, especially driving around with warrants. And I lived with that anxiety 24/7. You would think that it would subside when I was in my house, but no, because I would constantly then be thinking that the cops are going to come knocking at my door, being on probation and being MIA from probation and having warrants, constantly thinking that they were going to track down my house and come banging on my door. Because the cops just always did whatever the fuck they wanted to do. I mean, the amount of time, I mean, yeah, I've been arrested a lot of fucking times and I have a 10 plus page criminal record. And I say 10 plus pages because I don't know exactly how long it is. In 2016, it was 9 pages, I think. It was almost 10 pages. So I guarantee, I know for a fact it's over 10 pages. I just don't know how many. I was constantly trying to beat drug tests, constantly getting high, being worried about getting found out. That anxiety became my baseline, where when I started using, I was a responsible human being. And that was my baseline. And what started as me getting high because it felt good, because it provided some sort of solution for whatever feeling and gave me some sort of sense of control over my life. Soon thereafter, the anxiety that replaced that became my baseline. The using began to be the solution for that anxiety. What started as an escape from whatever I was feeling in my life and gave me some weird sense of control soon became an escape for literally everything. Because the responsible, semi normal life that I was living to begin with quickly faded away and was replaced by the constant anxiety and the scams I was pulling. Like every single time I would walk into a store was like a heart attack in a fucking bottle. Anytime I would use a credit card or go to pick up a MoneyGram or a Western Union, because I became red flagged in the system, in pretty much all the systems, at all the banks, I was red flagged. So going to any of these places and trying to do anything, standing at the counter while waiting for like any kind of transaction to go through was like my heart would be pounding, like to the point, like out of my chest, out of my chest. It was literally almost unbearable, but I knew, because this is how fucked up addiction is. You put your body through that shit simply for the reward, that dopamine hit that you get when you get high. All of that anxiety, all of the fucking many heart attacks, all of the shit that I would literally do willingly on a daily basis, like go hustling, break the law, do money scams, steal. I was doing and making those choices willingly, all because I couldn't not get high, because I was convinced that if I were to get sick, it was a life or death situation. It's kind of wild to think about in that way, because I would literally be risking my life just to risk my life. Like I would risk my life out going boosting and stealing and breaking the law and doing money scams, and I would risk my life in that way of getting arrested for doing those things, only to risk my life to get high. Everything I did was a fucking risk. Everything I did was anxiety provoking and life or death. And living like that and having that become your baseline is so hard to come out of. Like I've said a million times, I'm still trying to come out of that survival mode. And then once I got into, like really into my addiction after just a year or two, like I've said, it escalated so quickly. Things start to pile up. It gets so overwhelming. It's like a what the fuck moment where you kind of come to a crossroads where it's like, okay, am I going to continue to be a criminal? Am I going to continue to just fuck everything up? Because I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. Or am I just going to stop this? Because I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I felt like I had no defense against it. And it feels so overwhelming, where it becomes like, if you can't beat them, join them type of mentality. Like once I started to get arrested and things started to go like in motion, it was like snowballing down a hill. It's like I felt like I couldn't stop it because it was already in motion. So I was like, fuck it. It was like the biggest case of the fuck it's ever. Every decision to get high was like a big fuck it. Every detox that I left was like a big fuck it. It was all a big fuck it because that motion felt impossible to stop. The deeper I dug myself, the more hopeless I got. And then also, it's like this sick kind of like mind fuck where I knew what I was doing. I knew I didn't want to continue to live in the chaos, but I also didn't want to do the work to change any of it because I just couldn't foresee a life, or I couldn't imagine any other thing feeling as good as getting high felt. I couldn't imagine a life without dope. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see a way out. Even though I knew it was possible, people around me, ex junkies, were all over the place changing their lives and doing great things with their life. But addiction is so isolating in the way that it truly manipulates your brain to thinking that it's impossible for you. While I knew it was possible for other people, I felt like it was truly impossible for me to ever find anything worth living for. Because dope had been really the only thing that I had found in my life that was worth sticking around for. Like, it gave me a purpose. It was the only thing I got out of bed for, I kept going for, I looked forward to. Literally, I had nothing else to go back to in my life. I didn't want to be doing any of the things that I was doing as a 23-year-old girl. And I didn't want to go back to waiting tables for the rest of my life. I didn't see or think it was possible to create an entirely new life from where I was. And I certainly didn't think it was possible to like use my story in any way, shape, or form. Like throughout my addiction, I never once thought that this would be a possibility. Not even until after the fact, after I stopped using, until I had my spiritually awakened thoughts and my aha moment, it really didn't even dawn on me like, wow, I can use my story to help people. I can inspire others in a way that will give me, you know, a way to build a brand new life. Hopefully that's the plan. But I truly didn't see it until I was ready to see it. And that's why I say, like, you don't know what the path is going to open up. You don't know what's going to unfold for you until you start to take the steps, really, truly. Like, you will never be able to imagine what your life is going to come out looking like until you start doing the work. And even then, it's probably going to look entirely different than you ever thought. So people talk a lot about addiction in a way where it feels like it's just something that happens to you, right? Where people assume that something, some catalyst happened in your life and you resorted to using a substance. But let me tell you, the chaos of junkie life is wild. The chaos of junkie life and active addiction is literally just as addicting and just as hard to walk away from as the substances. It's a constant feeling of being trapped in a life between what you need and what you want. It's legit mental warfare. Addiction starts kind of as a promise. Using a substance initially feels like a promise. The high you get, the euphoric feeling, it's a moment of peace. It's a solution, an escape that provides something that you didn't even know you were searching for. Just one more time, just one more time. And the search really does feel like you're running from something or towards something. It's a constant run, but you never really know what it is you're running from. Your mind becomes a maze that you can never escape. The best way I can describe it is just feeling like you can't breathe, like you can never catch a full breath. And every minute you stay in active addiction, things start to pile up and it gets even more overwhelming as the days go by. The scheming, the lying, the manipulating, the stealing, the being a criminal. It's not only all those things, but it's also the people you hurt, the promises you break, the relationships you destroy, the bridges you burn. It's constantly looking over your shoulder, always thinking you're being watched or examined, waiting for that next time you're going to get arrested or get caught doing something wrong. It's like you're never fully present in the moment. You're constantly thinking about the next thing to do in order to get your fix. But anytime you have a brief second to look around, everything around you is broken, breaking, or wrong in some way, shape, or form. Literally everything you touch breaks. Everything around you is burning. It's similar to a feeling of being stuck between two places because that high keeps dragging you back in. It's really the only thing you know how to do. And on the other hand, it's that realization of how deep and further into a hole you are taking yourself. It's a constant battle between continuing to get high or crawling your way out of bottom, which sounds dreadful, awful, impossible. It becomes about simply just existing. Your entire existence revolves around a substance. Your entire existence becomes about a substance. Nothing else matters. And living in the chaos becomes normal. And it's almost like this weird, sick sense of pride that you get when you realize that the chaos is less chaotic, feels less chaotic. Like you've almost gotten good at the chaos. Like I thought I was one step ahead of everyone. I thought I was beating the system. I thought I was getting away with everything. I thought I was beating all my urines and fooling my probation officers and missing that arrest by, a minute or a second, or getting away from the cops or anything. I thought I was getting away with it. Like I felt this weird sick sense of pride, like I was good at living in chaos. So walking away from that life becomes just as difficult as walking away from the substance. I stayed in that chaos, very similar chaos, for a year after I stopped using because that had been my life for so long. It's like I was scared to let the lifestyle go. I continued selling drugs. I continued getting arrested. I continued being a fucking menace and living in filth. It took me over a year. I mean, I was grieving both of my parents, but I was still living in absolute chaos. I was running so hard from the reality that just hit me in the face all at once one day when I had that spiritual aha moment where I realized that I didn't have to live like that anymore and that I was choosing to live like that. If it was making me so miserable, then why was I choosing to continue living like that? So from that moment on, I started choosing to live differently. And it's the little baby choices that add up. This is exactly why it feels so boring to be in early recovery or to, when you first stop using. It feels like, what the fuck did I do this for? Like you're looking around, you have absolutely nothing to do, you're so bored, right? But how soon we forget what the chaos felt like. In the past couple days after I crashed out, I was reminded of how chaotic it really was. The constant moving, the constant anxiety. I mean, yes, I one thing I've learned about myself in this journey is that I'm pretty high strung. Like I'm an anxious person. I have anxiety. I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder. I used to have panic disorder, which I don't really talk that much about. But I mean, I'm not a huge advocate for like medication or even therapy for that matter, but that's a different story for a different time. But I'm pretty high strung. Like it's very difficult for me to relax even still. And a lot of it has to do with my mindset and my success and me doing what I do because like I said in the beginning, me feeling like I constantly should be doing more because hard work was very valued in my family and it was like work 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 do. I always had perfect attendance in my schooling. Like I was always made to go to school even if I was sick or had really bad cramps, which I have problems in that area. So I was just kind of taught to push through the discomfort and show up anyways, which is good and great when it comes to work ethic. But when it comes to self care and learning to relax and be productive in, and take care of yourself in that way and rest, it's really difficult to unlearn those things. So I still struggle with that. But I mean, listen, bro, the peace feels like boredom. Like boredom is what peace feels like. Like I sit in silence literally all the time. Like I don't have a TV and I don't even like to be, I don't doom scroll that much. I do occasionally, but I'm really never on my phone. I take walks outside. It's very quiet here. Like I sit in silence all the time. But listen, this shit is hard. Like it's hard. Nobody said it's easy. One thing I'm learning for real though, is like the harder your journey, the greater the reward's going to be on the other side. And that's just the way it is. So I think I'm going to shut up now because I've blabbed on a lot in this video and the lighting has changed about a million times because the storm just passed. So I don't even know what this is going to look like. But I think that's all I have to say for today. So just take it from me. You can fucking come back from anything. You can crawl yourself out of any hole, no matter how deep it feels, no matter how hopeless you might feel. There's always hope. There really is, even though if you don't, you might not feel it. I can't believe I haven't sipped my coffee this whole fucking time. But wait, like and subscribe. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you so much for being here. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Hi. There's a storm coming in, so I have to do this like right on top of the window, and it's starting to thunder. So I'm sure my puppy child India is going to want to jump on my lap. It's just thunder. Here she comes. It's just thunder, bub. It's just thunder, baby. It's just okay. Okay. She wants to lean. Okay. Hold on. Hold on, babe. Okay. Okay. It's okay. Shh. It's okay. Shh. So I want to say thank you because I feel better today. And I crash out. I crash out every now and again, every other week at this point, it seems.